We'll start the event now. And Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Saeed. I'm from Qatar National Library. I'm also representing Arab Youth Climate Movement Qatar. Today's event, I'm very delighted that you all here. Thank you for taking time in your Thursday to come to the event. And so today's talk is about elegant simplicity in the age of excess. In the last few decades, the notion of progress and development directly attributed to accumulation of stuff and resources and our economies measure based on material and prosperity. Um, I just wanted to check, like there is a kind of an echo coming in here. Maybe like perhaps like we mute. Okay. Sorry, let me just start it again. In the last few decades, the notion of progress and development is directly attributed to accumulation of stuff and resources. And our economies measure based on material and income prosperity. Living frugally and simply is tacitly forbidden as it goes against the consumer-driven economy. Through market and media, we are constantly reminded that buying more stuff would lead to happiness and validation from society. And this wasn't a hard task for them. And we fell into the trap and started the unstoppable journey of accumulating more stuff. More stuff. We got disconnected from our natural environment, and more stuff did not lead to increase in happiness. It did to a certain extent, but not more. The UN's Global Resource Outlook 2019 a report finds that global resource use has more than tripled since 1970 to reach 92 billion tons in 2017. And our material productivity has remained stable for the last 2 decades. The material footprint of high-income countries was 27 tons compared to 3 tons to low-income groups in 2017. And this rapacious resource extraction and consumption come at a great cost to natural environment. Every year, we break preceding year's climate records. Global temperatures continue to increase and greenhouse gas marching upwards, although it declined because of COVID. Our oceans are warming and we are pillaging our natural environment, causing over 90% of global biodiversity loss and water stress. For the sake of future survival, we need to moderate our appetite for stuff and live simply. Living a simple life doesn't mean that one needs to be parsimonious or live in penury. We need to learn how to live frugally and elegantly. Elegant simplicity is what our speaker proposes. Quoting from his foreword, a recent book that he published, Elegant Simplicity. Elegant simplicity is a spiritual path as well as a practical way of life. It's a harbinger of harmony and sustainer of the social fabric. Elegant simplicity preserves natural habitats as well as protects cultures and communities. Elegant simplicity is as good as for the outer landscape of the ecosphere as it is good for the inner landscape of the soul. The way to sustainability is simplicity. No amount of technological innovation will be enough. We have to simplify our homes, our workplaces, and our lives. That is the way to create a sustainable world, both for now and forever, unquote. Today's speaker has showed how we can live with elegant simplicity and recorded his journey in his book. And I'm extremely delighted and grateful for accepting our invitation to be part of AYCM Qatar's Earth Talk series. Satish Kumar is a former monk and long-term peace and environmental activist. Satish Kumar has been quietly setting the global agenda for change for over 50 years. He was just 9 when he left his family home to join the wandering Jains, and 18 when he decided he could achieve more back in the world, campaigning for land reform in India and working to turn Gandhi's vision of a renewed India and peaceful world into reality. Inspired in his early 20s by the example of British peace activist Bertrand Russell, Satish embarked on an 8,000-mile peace pilgrimage. Carrying no money and depending on the kindness and hospitality of strangers, he and a colleague walked from India to America via Moscow, London, and Paris to deliver a humble packet of peace tea to the leaders of the world's then 4 nuclear powers. In 1973, Satish settled in the UK, becoming the editor of Resurgence magazine, a position he held until 2016, making him the UK's longest-serving editor of the same magazine. During this time, he has been the guiding spirit behind a number of now internationally respected ecological and educational ventures. He co-founded Shoemaker College in South Devon, where he is a visiting fellow. In his 50th year, Satish undertook another pilgrimage, again carrying no money. This time, he walked 2,000 miles to the holy places of Britain, a venture he described as a celebration of his love of life and nature. During his long and distinguished career, he received several honorary doctorates from several universities, both in Britain and beyond. In 2014, Satish was appointed as an Oxfam UK ambassador. Satish was also a member of the Advisory Council of the Gross National Happiness Centre of Bhutan. In 2019, he was awarded an honorary doctorate of science by the University of Wales. His autobiography, No Destination, first published by Green Books in 1978 and has sold over 50,000 copies. And he's also an author of several other books, and his latest book is Elegant Simplicity. In 2008, as a part of the BBC Two's A Natural World series, he presented a 50-minute documentary from Dartmoor, which was watched by over 3.6 million people. He continues to teach and run workshops on reverential ecology, holistic education, and voluntary simplicity, and is a much sought after speaker both in the UK and abroad. And we are very delighted he accepted our invitation. And I recommend everyone who's attending today's lecture to subscribe to his journal, to subscribe to his magazine, Resurgence. It's one of the finest environmental magazines, and I constantly wait to read the magazine. I guess like there are 4 issues per year, and they're very reasonable price. I guess it's just the price of 2 coffees that you can get a subscription. I strongly recommend everyone, who wanted to know more about ecology, a kind of a completely new discourse, like you can hear from that one. And I strongly recommend you to subscribe to that one. I'll just post the website on the chat box. And now Satish will speak for 40 minutes, and then we'll have a guided Q&A and a public Q&A. And Satish has so much to talk about, and he has so much a lifelong wisdom to share with. And please listen to him attentively. And Satish, the floor is yours.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Said, for such a warm and wholesome introduction of my life. And I hope I can rise to the challenge and expectations that many people might have. But it is my great pleasure to speak to your friends and the audience in near Doha and in your country. I wrote this book, Elegant Simplicity, because at the moment, all of us are looking for some real solutions of climate change, biodiversity diminishing, oceans are polluted. We have so many ecological, environmental problems. And also, at the same time, we have many social problems, social injustice, poverty, many millions of people, particularly many millions of children, go to bed hungry. So, ecological problems and also social problems. And then at the same time, we also have many personal problems. So many people are suffering from depression, loss of meaning in life. They don't know what is the purpose of life, where they are going. So all these personal, social, and ecological problems coming together. So I was thinking, what is the solution? Something simple, something everybody can do, everybody can participate. What is it? I thought long and hard. And then I came up with this one simple idea, and I called it Elegant Simplicity. And the elegant simplicity will work to bring a more contentment, more joy, more happiness, and more solutions to our ecological problems, our social problems, and our personal problems. Let me start with the ecological. At the moment, humanity is on a course of endless economic growth, endless consumption and production, as if that is the goal of humanity. More production, more consumption. And therefore, we are encroaching the natural world, natural habitat, ever increasing speed. So Amazon rainforests are being destroyed. Rainforests in Malaysia, Indonesia, Africa. and many natural forests are being destroyed. And more factory farming is growing. Millions of animals are kept in factory farms. All this production, and we at the same time, we have 40% of food wasted. So what are we going to do with this situation? So we have to reduce our footprint on our planet Earth. And we have to reduce our consumption. Production and consumption should be the means to an end, not the end. At the moment, our society thinks, our economics, our politics, our business, our industry, they all seem to believe that the goal of human life and goal of human society is more production, more consumption, more economic growth, more profit, more money. I want to change this. Through elegant simplicity, I want to say that the goal of human life and goal of human society is not production and consumption and economic growth. The goal is well-being. And economic growth, consumption, production, money, they are the means to create that well-being of humanity and well-being of planet Earth and well-being of society. So, first and foremost, my elegant simplicity challenges this confusion of means and ends. What are the means? What are the ends? From my point of view, the end is human well-being and well-being of the planet Earth. And production, consumption, economic growth, and profit and money are means to that end. So this is first principle, that we need to live simply in such a way that we don't take too much from our environment. If we go on destroying rainforests, if we go on polluting our oceans, we go on factory farming, we go on emitting carbon into the atmosphere and create climate catastrophe, then humanity cannot live happily and cannot survive. So human survival is at stake. And so we need to reduce our consumption. We need to reduce our economic growth. We need to reduce our production system. And we need to create something which is for need and not for greed. As Mahatma Gandhi said, there is enough in the world for everybody's need, but not enough for anybody's greed. That principle is a principle of elegant simplicity. We meet our need. Nature provides enough. Nature is abundant. If you plant one seed in the soil, then one seed can create a whole tree. The tiny seed of apple can create a whole tree. And that one tree can create thousands and thousands of apples or mangoes or oranges year after year after year for 50 years or 40 years. That's the abundance of nature. So we have to embrace the abundance of nature, but take from nature only what is our need for our survival, true survival, and no waste, no pollution. In nature, there is no waste. In nature, there is no pollution. Nature has a circular economy. The economy of nature is a circular economy. Everything comes from the soil, becomes a tree, becomes a body, becomes wood, becomes everything, and then we use them, and then it goes back to nature, back to the soil. So this circular economy of nature is the model we have to learn from nature. Nature is our teacher. Nature is our mentor. Nature is our model. Nature is our example. If we can learn from nature, then we realize that we are part of nature. At the moment, humanity thinks that nature is out there. We can use nature as we like. Nature is out there. Nature is mountains and forests and rivers, and they are all inferior to humans. Humans are somehow superior and higher. And nature is there just for human consumption and human production and human economy, a resource for the economy. Nature is not a resource for the economy. Nature is the source of life itself. And we are nature. Nature is not separate from humans, and humans are not separate from nature. We are made of earth, air, fire, water, space, and consciousness, and time. Time, space, and consciousness. These 7 elements. So trees and mountains are also made of the same elements. So our earth is a living organism. It's not a dead rock. Nature is animate. Nature is alive. Nature is intelligent. William Blake, the British poet, once said, "The nature is the imagination itself." This is the nature that we have to embrace. So we are nature. Humans are not separate from nature, and nature is not a resource for the economy. Nature is life itself. If we can take this principle, then that's the principle of elegant simplicity. And in that principle, we say that there is no separation. Humans and nature are one. Unity of life. And that from that unity, that one source, one origin, one big bang from which we have all come, diversity has flourished. So unity and diversity. We have to maintain the unity, and we also have to maintain diversity, biodiversity, cultural diversity, racial diversity, all diversity. So unity and diversity dance together. That is the elegant simplicity in terms of ecological perspective. I can go on more. In my book, I have explained more. But in a nutshell, we have to make smaller footprint of the planet Earth and take resources of nature, not as resources, but as source of life, and only for our survival, and not for waste, and not for pollution, and create a circular economy. So that is our perspective, my perspective about nature. Then human perspective. If we not live simple life, then that means a few people, 1%, 2%, 5% of people live a very high standard of living. And 95% of people in the world have a lower and lower and lower standard of living. And the 10, 15 or 20% of people have a very low level and standard of living. So this inequality grows higher and higher and higher. So live simply so that everybody can simply live. That is the human principle. If we want social justice, how can there be a social justice if we just go on consuming and accumulating 2 houses, 3 cars, 5 computers, more television, more clothes, a wardrobe full of shoes, wardrobe full of clothes, all this accumulation, and we never use them. We have one body. On one body, you can only have 1 shirt and 1 jacket and 1 pair of trousers, and you can have 1 or 2 or 3 more. But wardrobe full of, room full of clothes and shoes, and a house full of gadgets and stuff, that is not going to bring social justice. So in order to bring social justice and social equality and harmony among people and reduce the poverty and hunger, millions of children go to bed without food in our modern times. Why? We have so much abundance of nature, so much food, so much technology, so much wealth we have in the world, and it's concentrated in a few hands. And that they don't live simple life. And so I would say that for social justice and social harmony and social equality, the principle of elegant simplicity is paramount and most fundamental and most urgent principle that we need to adopt. And the third principle is the personal. When you are spending so much time, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week, or 5 days a week, working, earning more money, no time for yourself, no time for your friends, no time for your family, no time for your children, no time to read poetry, no time to sing songs, no time to walk by the sea, no time to look at the tree, no time to look at the birds and the butterflies, no time for anything. So we are spending most of our life just in front of a computer, behind a desk, and earning money, job, work, and no life. That is going to bring unhappiness. That is going to bring depression. That is going to bring discontentment, because you think that no fulfillment. This job and money and accumulation of wealth is not going to make you fulfilled or contented. You are only going to have more desire. You think that more money, more house, more clothes, more motor cars, more computers, more gadgets will make you happy. It doesn't. I've seen millions of people who are full of such wealth, but they are not happy. And so if you want to have a happiness, contentment, then you have to live a simple life so that you earn money. Of course, we need some money. And you have a few things, like you have a house. Of course, you have a house. You need a house, a garden. Of course, you need a garden. You have these things, but minimal. What is absolutely necessary for your good life. Then add to that more arts, more crafts, more music, more poetry, more spirituality, more meditation, more reading, more writing poetry, singing songs, going for a walk, having friends, all these wonderful things that we can do, we need to bring back in our life. And those things will make us happier. Those things will bring us fulfillment. So I always say to people, seek not success, seek fulfillment. It is better to be joyful than successful. Successful is a kind of illusion. Success is measured by somebody outside, that you have been successful because you have been on the career ladder, and now you are no longer just an ordinary person working in an office. You are a managing director or a CEO or some higher official. But these are just illusions. They don't make you happy. So elegant simplicity at a personal level is to live simply so that you can be joyful and do not seek success. Rather than successful, I emphasize in my book, Elegant Simplicity, be joyful, be fulfilled. Fulfillment is more important than success. And so, at three levels, ecological level, social level, and personal level, we need to create a model of elegant simplicity. And then whatever we do, we need to have three things together in our life, whether it's a personal life, social life, or environmental life. We need to have three words, which are the guiding words for me. My mantra. This is my mother actually taught me these three words. And those three words are that everything you make, everything you have in your house, everything you use in your daily life should be beautiful, number one, useful, number two, and durable, number three. If something is not beautiful, just having stuff without beauty, not good. Beauty is the food for soul. Beauty is the food for the imagination. It's the beauty in nature. You see the flowers, the butterfly, the apples on the tree, the mangoes on the tree, the oranges, the roses, all the fruits and the flowers and the vegetables, and the oceans and the sunset and the sunrise and the rainbow and the stars. Look at nature. Nature is beautiful. Human body is beautiful. Words are beautiful. So nature is beautiful. Why we humans, in our industrial growth and technological growth and more production on a quantity and not quality. So beauty is to shift from pursuit of quantity to pursuit of quality. When you shift from the quantities to qualities, you get beauty. So first principle is have nothing, make nothing, use nothing which is not beautiful. But beauty is not enough by itself. All in nature, the mangoes are beautiful, oranges are beautiful, apples are beautiful, but they are also useful. They have nutrition. Nature is also very useful. Nature gives life. Nature has nourishment and nurturing quality. So whatever you do, human beings, learn from nature. As I said, nature is our teacher. And whatever is beautiful and delicious should also be useful, nurturing, nourishing, and enhancing our mind, our body, our spirit, our soul, our imagination, everything should be enhanced and nourished and nurtured. So it should be useful. Beauty is not just for decoration. Beauty is not just to put on the shelf or on the wall. Even paintings are useful because they give you inspiration. They tell you a story. They give you some ideas, like Picasso's painting of Guernica. There's a big message of peace in that one painting. Painting is not just to look at beauty only. Beauty and usefulness go together. So second principle is everything in elegant simplicity. You have beautiful but also useful. But that is also not enough. There's a third word which we have to also adopt, and that is that should be durable. At the moment, our production and consumption is such that one single-use plastic, one single-use this or that, many things we just use once and throw away. And our landfills are full of our pollution and waste. And our oceans are full of our waste and pollution, plastic and many other things. And our soil is being poisoned by our pollution and waste. And therefore, whatever you make, whatever you have, should be also durable, sustainable, long-term. So if you have a jacket like this should not only last your lifetime, but it can be inherited by your children. Your children can wear it, and then the grandchildren can wear it. So everything should be made to last. A house should have 500, 600, 1,000-year life. Nowadays, you build new houses and you give a kind of security or guarantee for 30, 40, 50 years. What is the joke? That you are building a house, taking wood, stone, bricks, all the material from nature and last only 30, 40 years. A house should be built for 1,000 years or 500 years, long term, and should be always repaired. When you have a beautiful, useful, and durable, then you can mend things, you can repair things. So it's not a question of money, it's a question of mentality, it's a question of mindset, it's a question of thinking. How are we going to relate to people and how we are going to relate to nature in such a way that we do not exploit anybody. So this, our sacred earth, sacred planet is a gift. We must not abuse this gift. We must cherish it. It's a kind of reverence for life, reverence for the planet. Everything is sacred, its own life. Trees have sacredness, and trees have their own intelligence, and animals have intelligence, and everything has that sacredness. So we must revere, and we must respect, and take only what is our need, and then in return we give back. We give back, and we nourish the soil. We nurture the soil. We put compost on the soil. We put compost on the trees. We look after, we plant more trees. We create more enhancement of nature so that nature can flourish. So humans receive from nature, but we must also give back to nature. So that kind of reciprocity, that kind of mutuality is the fundamental principle of elegant simplicity. Without this kind of mutuality and reciprocity and giving back to nature and looking after nature, if we just go take, and nothing give back, this planet cannot survive. At the moment, we are at a very great critical point. The climate change is a big point. And in Scotland, in Glasgow, this year, we are going to have a big COP26 conference. And that should be a turning point. And people should make a commitment that we are not going to emit any carbon emission which will cause climate change and global warming. Because we can see the wildfires in California and wildfires in Australia and many, many big floods and climate upsetting in Malaysia and Indonesia and India. And in India, just now, we had a big flood and a kind of glacier in Himalaya have broken and created a big catastrophe in Uttarakhand. And so that are the examples. Nature cannot take this kind of pollution, waste, and carbon emission. So we have reduced our impact and footprint on planet Earth. Therefore, at a social level, at a personal level and at ecological and environmental level, at every level, I thought that elegant simplicity is a very clear and very elegant answer. And so this is why I wrote this book. And I thought that by people embracing this idea of elegant simplicity, we can address many, many questions. So the question of ecological sustainability is not only for the governments, not only for the government policies or political policies. It's not only for the industrialists or business leaders. It's not only for the oil companies. It's not only for somebody else. It's for me and you. We have to take responsibility upon our shoulders, and we have to say that we are going to participate in a new way of life so that we are not creating such a havoc on our planet Earth. And this is in a way leads to a kind of more spirituality as well. This is more spiritual, because if you take all the great teachers of spiritual tradition, whether it's the Buddha or the Islam, Muhammad, and many great Sufi teachers, Rumi, Hafiz, and many other great Islamic teachers and Christian teachers, St. Francis. St. Francis said that I embrace lady poverty. He did not think that poverty meaning self sort of restraint. Poverty does not mean misery. Poverty does not mean, in St. Francis' language, poverty does not mean deprivation. Poverty means self-restraint. I will take less. When somebody becomes a Christian monk, they take the vow of poverty, chastity, and obedience. So poverty there does not mean hunger. Poverty there does not mean starvation or misery. Poverty there means restraint. Taking less than nature can provide you. So leave a little bit back so that others can have, other humans can have, other animals can have, other birds can have. So when you are taking fruit from the trees, don't take everything. Leave some for the birds. Leave some for the other animals. Leave some for the monkeys. Leave some for other natural life as well. It's not everything, it's just not for humans. Whereas we just take. So this is why the spirituality is very close to, but when I think about spirituality, I don't necessarily mean religion. Religions have spiritual values, but they may be sometimes too dogmatic or sometimes too fundamentalist or too narrow-minded. I'm not talking about that kind of religion. I'm talking about religious principles, spiritual principles of generosity and sort of sharing and not possessiveness. So elegant simplicity is a principle that we do not own nature. We do not have ownership of nature. We have a respectful relationship with nature. So from ownership to relationship is the direction which elegant simplicity can guide us. And so Albert Einstein once said that any fool can make things complicated. It requires a genius to make things simple. And so making something simple, life simple, is not going to be easy, because all the forces of society and economics and politics and industry and business are forcing us to buy, more consumption, buy, advertising. But so in that situation, we have to be very self-contained and self-restrained and self-possessed so that we don't get taken by all this advertising. And so any fool can make things complicated. It requires a genius to make things simple. That was Albert Einstein's advice maybe 50 years ago. And so I would say that elegant simplicity can lead us to a more ecological balance, more social justice, and more personal fulfillment. And I think it is important that we take this responsibility. And every one of us, we have to be the change that we want to see in the world. That was Mahatma Gandhi's phrase, that we have to be the change, we have to live the change, we have to practice our principles and not leave that climate change is problem of the government, and climate change is problem for the industry, and climate change is problem for the business, and so on, and they have to do something, and technology will solve the problem. Technology is not going to solve the problem. Technology is the cause of the problem. And you cannot solve the problem from the same tools, the same mindset, the same ways which created the problem in the first place. So our problem of climate change and global warming and pollution and waste and environmental crisis is created by too much technology. And so if we think that by having more different kind of technology will solve the problem, no. It has to change from our heart. Change of heart, change of lifestyle, change of attitude, change of value. They are as important as technological solution. Of course, I am in favor of solar panels. I'm in favor of windmills. I'm in favor of water power. I'm in favor of all the renewable resources of energy rather than fossil fuel. I'm in favor of that. But even if we had solar energy and wind power and water power, and we put solar panels everywhere and windmills all over the world, and everything, that is not going to be very good because there's a limit. The planet is finite, and we cannot have infinite economic growth on a finite planet, even if you have resource of solar power and wind power and water power. So simple life complemented by a bit of solar energy and wind energy and water energy is fine. So let us not depend entirely on a technological solution. There are many people in the world today who are looking for a technological fix. They say technology will solve the problem. I am saying through elegant simplicity that technology has only a part of solution. Good technology has a part of solution, but the other part of solution is our own way of thinking, our own way of life, our own way of consumption and production and how we live. And so we need to live like an artist. We need to live with imagination. We need to live with a spirit. And so an artist, and when I say live like an artist, I mean that everything we do should be like a work of art. Whether we are building a garden, or we are building a house, or we are making clothes, or we are making shoes, or we are making furniture, should be a work of art. And we should revalue the work done by hands. Our modern wasteful industrial production system is making human hands useless. No need for human hands. Everything is made by machine. In elegant simplicity, I want to bring back arts and crafts so that people have the possibility to make beautiful things, and making things are not just for use, but also for the nourishment of the imagination and nourishment of your spirit and nourishment of your heart. And therefore, I would like to see arts and crafts becoming more integral part of life. Art is not only for a few artists and a few people, professional musicians, or few professional poets, and art in the galleries and museums, and art in the concert hall, and art somewhere for a few people, and then you go just for as a spectator and a kind of visitor to a museum or to a gallery or to a concert hall or to some kind of theater. I want to have art in everyday life, and everybody should be an artist. And I always believe that artist is not a special kind of person, but every person is and should be a special kind of artist. So we have to transform our lives into work of art, and everything we do with beauty, elegance, beauty, and beautiful usefulness and durability. If those principles can be brought in, then I think we can create a new way of life, and we can solve our ecological problems, we can solve our social inequality and social struggle and social tension and conflicts, and also we can be happy in our personal life, more joyful, more friendly, more family, and so on. So these are the kind of overview of elegant simplicity, and I look forward to hearing your questions, more questions, and we can discuss these ideas further. But as a basic overview I have given you in these words, and I look forward to hearing your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Satish. Thank you for that passionate speech. As always, I have seen so much of your talks and I have enjoyed all of them. I just wanted to begin particularly with the very fundamental concept that is creating this problem, treadmill of production. Like we talked about briefly, how are we going to challenge it? Like, it's kind of deeply ingrained into our system that we need to produce so that like we can keep the jobs, we provide jobs. Um, how are we going to challenge that notion?
The question not clear. The sound a bit echoey. So could you phrase again slowly?
Okay. Um, I wanted to focus about the treadmill of production, like, how we're going to challenge the notion of, yeah, challenge the notion of treadmill of production.
Challenge the treadmill of production.
Challenge
The treadmill of production.
Challenge
the treadmill of production.
Treadmill.
How will you do that? How will you challenge
Yeah. How do you deal with this production, which is a kind of obsessing our lives in a way? Um, first of all, we have to say that production is not to keep machines going. Production is not to keep people in job. Production is to meet the needs of people. So production and needs have to be married together. At the moment, we produce not because we need it, but we produce to sell. And in the world, we have too many shops. And everybody is trying to sell. But if you need it or not, you sell. Shopping has become a kind of pastime and a hobby. So what we need to do is to change this mentality, change this mindset, change this social value, change this notion that we need to go on producing, whether we need it or not. And so, for example, in traditional societies, a shoemaker will be there. And when I need the shoe, I will go to the shoemaker and say, I need a shoe because my shoe is now old and I need a new pair of shoes. So I'll give my measure. And the shoemaker will take the measure of my foot and make a beautiful shoe. And that will last for a long time. So that production was made for me when I needed it. And when I don't need it, the shoemaker is there. And then we share in our community, society, whatever production of food. Of course, food is always need to produce, but without waste. Production of food at this moment, like for example in Brazil, we are producing so much soya beans for China, for India, for Europe, for all over the world. And in the process of that transportation and so on, 30–40% of soya beans are lost and wasted. And when the soya beans are coming in the houses of people, lots of food is getting rotten in fridges and deep freezes and so on. So this is why we have to make economics smaller and more local. Local production and local consumption, local economy will make the production associated appropriately to the need of the people. Production should be for the people, not people for the production. That is the idea. So production and need should come together.
Thank you. I guess on your side, you have to mute so that like the echo couldn't come. Once I finish the question, perhaps you can unmute it. No, it has to be okay. I guess it's better now. Once I finish the question, perhaps like you can unmute it to respond to that one. I wanted to ask you about like the book, The E of Shoemaker, which you co-founded the college. On Small is Beautiful, the economics as if people mattered. And how relevant is it now? And particularly like, he wrote that book in 1970s. And but after 40 years, 50 years now, like we can see that that concept has still not been taken too seriously, and the mainstream economists now only they're talking about the steady state economics, and the UN is talking about it. how do you see that book is relevant now? Is it are you seeing, like, through the resurgent stories across the world that you report, is it is it sprouting in some communities, or is it going to make a comeback, or is it going to die down? What is your thought on that book? Can you just talk about some of the book? Many people, I'm not sure how many of them have read that book. Just a brief about it, and like, where is it heading?
Yes, thank you for mentioning Schumacher, and I established Schumacher College in UK in order to bring this kind of economic system. And what he's saying is that when you make things too big, you lose human scale, and you lose human touch, and you also lose human imagination, and humans become part of a big machine. And therefore, if you want to have ecological economics, or even steady state economics, which is more a later idea after Schumacher, came steady state economics, and donut economics came afterwards, Kate Raworth. That's also a very good book. But Small is Beautiful had all the kind of seeds of all those ideas. And he's saying local economics is the first important thing. Because if you have a globalization, that means goods and services and humans have to go all around the world, traveling. So clothes are made in Vietnam and sold in America. Shoes are made in Bangladesh and sold in Paris. Furniture made in Japan or China or other poor countries and sold in some other countries. How much transportation, how much fossil fuel you have to use when you can make something local? I mean, I was surprised once that I was in Paris, and water from Scotland was being sold, Highland water. And then a few days later, a few weeks later, I was in Scotland and I saw the French water, the Evian water was being sold in Scotland. Just imagine that all the water being transported from Scotland to France and France to Scotland, all the transportation, all the lorries and the trucks and the roads, all that transportation. So we have to build this huge infrastructure to create a big economic system of globalization. And so Schumacher's idea was, small is beautiful, keep local. French water is good for the French. You don't need to send French water to Scotland. And Scottish water is good for Scotland. You don't need to send Scottish water to France. We import butter from New Zealand to England. And we export our butter to Moscow or Soviet Union or Russia or some other countries. Why not eat our own butter? And so the globalization had gone mad. So small is beautiful, economics as if people matter, not money matter. At the moment, economic is run as if money matter, profit matter. Who can produce cheap? Who can produce things which are kind of sold somewhere else? And other people don't want to produce anything. So in England, we don't want to produce anything. We just want to give services, economic services, financial services. The city is more important. We can import our clothes from Bangladesh, or shoes from Vietnam, or furniture from China, or cars from somewhere else. We import everything what we need, and we just have financial services mostly. The service industry is the most prevalent industry in England or in Britain. And so small is beautiful is more about local economy and living with local resources, and then have a global mind. Local economy does not mean narrow mind. You can have Shakespeare in Doha. You can have Hafiz and Rumi in England. You can have Tagore around the world. You can have Shakespeare around the world. You can have music around the world. You can have spirituality, yoga around the world. You can have sports around the world. But they don't need any fossil fuel. They don't need any great infrastructure and so much transportation. They need just ideas. So let the mind be global. That was Schumacher's idea of small is beautiful. Let the mind be global, the consciousness be global. We are part of one humanity. We are part of one earth. We are one, but our economy should be local. So that our food, our clothes, our shoes, our water, our butter, our cheese, our basic necessity of life should be local. And the global economy should be maybe 10%, 15%, small amount. If something in Scotland is not available, cannot make, and importing from France is okay. If something in France they cannot make, importing from Scotland, maybe like a whiskey is very good in Scotland. Some people want to drink whiskey, all right. You can export 10, 15%. That was Schumacher's idea. The small icing on the cake, a small amount of trade international is okay. But the large trade should be local, small scale, and everybody should have a more self-employment. Because when you are employed by an employer, you become a hand in the hands of the big company. You cannot use your imagination, you cannot use your creativity, you cannot use your innovation. You have to just follow the rule. And so human imagination is curtailed and destroyed in this global economy. And so rather than working for somebody, create small cooperatives, small units, be self-employed, and a small cooperatives, a small group of people working together as equals, and not somebody boss and all the other people are just following the rule of the boss. Not that kind of hierarchy, but more at a kind of equal level. So small cooperatives, self-employment, local economy, these were the ideas of Schumacher. And they were very close to Mahatma Gandhi's ideas as well, local economy. Mahatma Gandhi revived the spinning wheel and the cottage industry and village industry. So these are perennial ideas, and in our modern times, we have to go back to that. And it's not going back really, it's going forward. Because from the ecological perspective, this kind of local economy will be less polluting. We don't need so much fossil fuel. And even to create electricity, even electric vehicles, even to create electricity, you need to have a lot of solar panels and windmills, and they need a lot of resources. They need a lot of mining. You have to get metal, and you have to get plastic, and you have to get all those things that have to be made from nature. And so this massive economic system, which we have created today, infrastructure, that is not necessary for human well-being and human happiness. So this unnecessary infrastructure and these high-rise buildings and roads and railways and motorways and seaport and airports and all that, too much. A little bit is okay. The middle way, there's a kind of Buddhist idea of middle way. So Schumacher's idea is more beautifully a middle way.
Thank you. There's a question from our audience that, sorry, some panelists. Sorry, I'm just like in a different mode. Thank you for the wonderful talk and your work. I agree that we need to change our lifestyles to protect nature, but isn't a change of policy at a global level the primary way to affect change?
Yes, absolutely. So what I'm saying is that it's not one or the other, both. So on the one hand, we have to be the change we want to see in the world, but that will not change the global economics and politics and industry and business. And so at the same time, we also need to work on a global level and a political level and industrial level, and we need to transform our economic system as well. But you cannot just wait until the government and the big business and big industry have changed, and then you will change. Those two things go together. So like walking on two legs, the personal action and the social action, the personal action and the social action, going side by side with two legs, walking on two legs. So what I'm advocating is both, not one or not the other, just, but both. So take personal responsibility, because you are the world, you are the universe, you are an important component of this transformation and change. So if you don't radiate the heat, there will be no heat. So you have to radiate your idealism, your example, and live by the example. And then, of course, you also agitate and campaign and organize change in government policies, industrial policies, business systems. All those things go together. So I'm not saying that you have to only one or the other. I'm saying both.
Thank you. And I have a question, like, from the organizations that I belong to. One is the youth organization that we do kind of raise awareness, like we wanted to kind of shift the discourse, environmental discourse in the community, and as well as a library. How do you see the young youth can contribute to this discourse, and as well as like library as a public space could enable this kind of discussion? Like, from your experience, like, you do a lot of town hall meetings and discussions. Would you like to share some tips, like how, I mean, definitely not all could be implemented in Doha. It has a completely different setup, like both politically, economically, and socially. So just like to wonder, like, what are the thoughts that we could pick up from your experiences?
Yes, I have a great hope for young generation, because like Greta Thunberg in Sweden, and like this new black young poet, Amanda Gorman, reading her poetry at the inauguration of President Joe Biden. And many hundreds of thousands of young people around the world are raising their voice for the ecological balance, for sustainability, and stopping the climate change, all these things. So hundreds of thousands of young people in every country are rising to the challenge, and they are saying that we don't want to inherit this kind of global system of economics, which is destroying our planet Earth and polluting our oceans and destroying our rainforests and creating such a havoc on our Earth. So I have a great hope that young people will create a new economic system and a new educational system, because education has to change. Young people are being brainwashed to just prepare themselves just for the jobs, and jobs for the big company, in the big companies, and which will be producing waste and pollution and creating climate change. And so these young people are demanding that we want a different kind of education. We want to learn how we can live ecologically and environmentally, and how we can create economic system which is more secular and more benign and not wasteful and not polluting. So they are asking for change in education. And this is why we created Schumacher College. So the young people in their 80s, 18 and 20 and 22 and under 30, they can come and get new skills and new ideas and new way of doing things. And so I have a great hope that young people in next generation create new education, new economic system, a new way of living, so that we will not pursue this old system. And I was a young man myself when I went around the world. I was 25, 26, and as a young person, I could have that idealism and that inspiration and that kind of conviction and energy, because I could go on my two legs all the way from India to Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Azerbaijan, Albania, Georgia, Russia, Moscow, Poland, Germany, Belgium, France, England, America, Japan, back to India. For 2.5 years, I could walk without any money. That was, so I urge all young people to be adventurous and take a big action. Don't get timid. At the moment, our education makes young people very timid. So I want to encourage young people to be adventurous. I want to encourage young people to take risk. And I went without any money. That was risky. For 2.5 years, going through Muslim countries, Christian countries, communist countries, capitalist countries, rich people, poor people, every kind of people I met. And deserts, mountains, snowstorms, big cities, rural area, everything you can imagine. And without any money for 2.5 years. If I was worried, I would not leave home. But I took risk and adventure. So I urge young people to take risk, be adventurous, and do things which you want to do, and world will help you. I was helped by everybody. I was helped by the rich and the poor. I was helped by the urban and the rural people. I was helped in Europe and in Middle East, everywhere. And so people will help you if you take action. If you go out and do something, like if you plant a seed in the soil, the sun will help with warmth. Rain will help with water, and air will help and the soil will help, and that seed can become a tree. But if you don't plant a seed, you will never see a tree. So young people have to do something, be adventurous, take risks, and then people will help you. Everybody will help you. Because helping others is nature, human nature, and so therefore do not fear. One thing we have to drop in our life to transform the world is to drop the fear. As long as we are afraid and we are timid and we don't act, then that is not going to help. So transformation needs to drop the fear. So if young people can drop the fear and do what they want to do, then they can be power for the good and force for the good.
Thank you. One final question from you, particularly the topic that is very close to you. You've been as a peace activist for so long, and particularly now with the there is this growing conflict with the natural resources and climate. I mean, like and conflict, and as well as like the climate change eventually leads to migration, conflict, and ethnic violence, and like new evidence is coming out. So, which way forward are we going to see? Like being more realistically speaking, so. There is a kind of a competition for scarce resources, and there is more conflict and violence going to see, and as well as the climate change will kind of pull a lot of people out, like back into poverty and displacement and everything. So how this kind of nexus between environment, peace, and gonna work together in the future?
I think particularly rich nations like European countries and America, they have in the past 200 years taken resources from the world and enriched themselves and created this global climate change, and this is causing the migration problem and climate refugees. There are many millions of people are going to be climate refugees. And so it is the responsibility of those countries which were colonial countries, imperial countries, countries which exploited Africa and owned slaves and got people to work here and took the wealth from Africa, from Asia, from South America, from everywhere. So this is the responsibility of these countries to think that how are we going to deal with this climate change, and those poor countries who have no resources, how they are going to bring back their agriculture, their local economy, all the resources they need. So I think it's a kind of equitable distribution of wealth. It needs to be done at this time in order to stop this thousands of people coming from poor countries and moving to other countries. Because moving and migration and becoming a refugee is not going to solve the problem. The problem has to be found locally wherever you are. So I think one thing is land reform is a paramount, urgent and paramount importance of land reform. And people who have no land should be given land. And jobs should be protected. At the moment, industrialization destroys the jobs. Industrialization and mechanization and machines take over the jobs, and human becomes unemployed. So they have no job, they have no land to produce food, and so what do? They want to leave home, and they want to leave their country, and they want to go and live somewhere else. And so in that sort of situation, we need to stop this mechanization and industrialization and destroying the jobs, and give land to people who are, and maintain the small farms. Small farms will produce the food more than the big, large mega farms. So we need to support the small farms, small farmers, small craftsmen, small artisan work, artisan food, artisan cheese, artisan clothes, artisan shoes, small farm food. So small farmers producing food, that will stop the climate refugee problem and the migration problem and this inequality problem. And so this is a very great challenge. And those countries who are poor countries like India, in India now government is actually very much in the idea of creating big farms and much more industrial production of food. And farmers are resisting. Farmers are saying, no, we want to keep small farms. So maintaining and supporting small farms and artisan work, artisan food, artisan production of clothes and so on, that is the ecological answer. And that is the answer for elegant simplicity. So that people can live on the land at their home and survive well. This is the future. Otherwise, we are going to face big problem of climate refugees and a big migration problem.
Sorry, one final question popped up in my mobile. Sorry, can I just ask you a muted very quick, question on regenerative societies? In your report, in your Resurgence magazine, there is a kind of emphasis on regenerative society, regenerative economics, and all of this. Could you like to talk about it? Because there is a growing trend about these new way of doing it. Yeah.
Yes. In the past 10, 15 years, people have talked about sustainability. Now we are trying to change this idea from sustainability to regenerative. Because when you say sustainability, we have to ask, what do you want to sustain? And many people are thinking of sustaining the status quo. So that is not what sustainability really means. In the true sense of the word sustainability, it meant sustaining the integrity of the ecosystem, sustaining the integrity of our earth system. But we have lost that. So now we are thinking of new terminology, and particularly in researchers, we are using this terminology, and Schumacher College, we are talking about this terminology, that we need to create economic system which is regenerative. So like nature is regenerative. Nature, you have an autumn, and you have a harvest, and then you have winter, and then the spring again, and you plant again, and the soil regenerates, and the trees are regenerated, and the fruit come back, and the flowers come back, and the children, human beings mate, and animals mate, and they create young children, and young cows, and young everything. And so this way, nature is regenerative. So it regenerates, it creates and recreates and reproduces like a Swayambhu. It's a kind of self-organizing, self-managing, self-recreating, self-sustaining system of ecosystem. And so that self-sustaining ecosystem is what we want to create by regenerative economics and regenerative culture. So we are moving a little bit away from this idea of sustainability, but we have lost the sense of sustainability, truly speaking, and we are moving towards more regenerative culture, so that everything should be self-regenerating and then self-managing and self-organizing, so that we don't depend on this fossil fuel and big industrial system.
Thank you, Satish. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And that's all we have for today. And I really appreciate your time sorry for the trouble to shift it from Zoom to Teams. Unfortunately, we have to rely on Teams over here. And thank you for taking the strain to come all the way from your home to Resurgence.
My pleasure. And if people want to follow this further ideas, then they can, as you mentioned, the Resurgence magazine, every 2 months, 6 times a year, we are producing this magazine. And so you can become a member either digitally. We have a digital membership as well, only £15. And also paper copy is also available. So that way you can remain in contact regularly.
Sure, definitely. I strongly recommend everyone as well to register, and as well as the Shoemaker College. I posted the website of Shoemaker College. Now it's impossible for you to travel, but definitely once the COVID situation is over, you can always take a summer course, and there are so many interesting courses that they offer, and I recommend you to attend, which I'm planning to do it as well. I've been thinking for so long, Satish, to come to take some courses in Shoemaker. Hopefully next year we're going to do that one, and we're looking forward to see you in Doha as well. We will be hosting this continuous series, and we'll like to invite you to Doha once this situation is over. And thank you so very much, and thank you everyone for joining this program today and taking your time, and do take care and stay safe. Thank you, Satish. Thank you very much. Have a very good day. Thank you. Have a very good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, bye.